What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to the Thomas Gallery, and today I'm going to talk about art and the human anatomy. It's going to be kind of like a science art mix thing. So let's go. Thought about this because I thought to myself, throughout the years, how much, because to me this is kind of like a mutually beneficial thing. How much has the field of science dealing with the human body advanced because of art, and also how much has art advanced because of the fields of science? Okay, what I mean is, let's say when you think about like ancient Greece, ancient Rome, you see the statues of Hercules and Zeus and Apollo and all that stuff. You see these big muscular men and these poses and these elaborate poses and gestures. What I realized is, in order for that particular sculptor, or we see a painting of the human figure, you say, okay, that particular painting of that person, that maybe that nude figure, most likely nude figure, in order for them to get the human anatomy so detailed and so realistic, they had to have had some kind of experience in the human anatomy. Okay, because the human anatomy is a very specific design. Okay, and in order for that particular sculpture, like Michelangelo's David, let's take one for example. Michelangelo's David, one of the most famous sculptors of all time, if not the most famous. Michelangelo's David. You see him standing, pose a certain way, and you see his human anatomy, and his anatomy is anatomically correct. Okay, it's anatomically correct. Now, although although Michelangelo is an artist, in my opinion, in order for him to have been so accurate with his depiction of the human anatomy, he had to have some experience with biology, with chemistry, with the different systems of the body, the muscular system, the skeletal system, the respiratory system, the endocrine system. He had to have had intimate experience and intimate knowledge with the physical human body in order for him to recall the muscles, the posture, the different movements in the skin as it relates to the muscles, as it relates to the bones, the veins, capillaries, all that stuff. Now, come on, he's an artist, not a scientist. However, at one point in time, those two disciplines were tied at the hip, right? I remember reading stories about, or hearing stories about, Leonardo da Vinci would go into the tombs of condemned criminals, right? And he would open the bodies up. He would do this on his own, like, because at that time, grave robbing wasn't much of a taboo as it is today. Like, if you disinter a human body, there's a problem. Back then, maybe not so much. Okay, so unless it was donated, you donate your body to science, or you donate your brain to science, stuff like that, to be studied on purpose. So I remember hearing stories about Leonardo da Vinci finding deceased bodies of criminals, opening them up, right? Opening the bodies up, removing the individual parts, and studying them and drawing them as a way to study the parts of the body and what they do and how they relate to the other parts of the body. Okay? Now keep in mind, he is not a scientist. He is not a trained surgeon. Okay? He did not go to medical school to be a surgeon. He is an artist. He's a painter. He's things like that. But in his mind, he didn't see any separation between art and science. They were tied together. So my question would be, Imagine how much science we would have lost had there not been a Da Vinci or Michelangelo or in the ancient Egyptians. Let's take it even further back. The ancient Egyptians were famously known for ways of preserving the deceased body, mummification, things of that nature. And we have records of their process, their drawings, if you want to call it that. They didn't call it drawings then, but their process of how they dressed the human body for burial. What they took out, what they kept in, where they put the things. They have visual depictions of this. Okay? This would be the predecessor to Leonardo, Michelangelo, things of that nature, of the human anatomy. Okay? So, for a lot of human history, art and science were always tied together. Always tied together. Okay? Now, if you think about it, if you look at a science book, right, and you look up the human anatomy, and you look at the different systems in the human body, there are many different systems, right? But one thing you know about all of them, all of those systems have a visual description of the systems and their relationship to the other parts of the body, other systems of the body, okay? That means that an artist took the time to draw those images and then put them in a book and accompanied with words. Okay, so what would it be like if the artist never met the scientist, or the scientist never met the artist? Because for a long period of time, they were one and the same. There was no, okay, I'm a scientist and I'm an artist. No, at one point in time, for a long period of time, they were the same. You couldn't have a drawing of the fetus in the womb like you see with Leonardo da Vinci without first seeing a fetus in the womb. Now, where did he get a woman who had a fetus in the womb? I don't know. But in order for him to have images of the muscular system and the skeletal system, right? In order for him to do drawings of the different muscles in the arm as it relates to the hand, as it relates to the fingers, and when you close your hand, or you move one finger or move another finger and bring another finger down, what muscles move and what tendons move, all that stuff. In order for Leonardo da Vinci to have drawn those in such detail as he did, he would have had to have first-hand knowledge, first-hand accounts, personal experience, hands deep in the body to take the time to draw those things. Because there weren't many books on the human anatomy during the time of the Renaissance. Well, in Europe. Other cultures had books on anatomy. They said ancient Egypt, African cultures, other Asian cultures, they had books on the human anatomy. But for Europe, they were a little behind. Okay, but what they lacked in experience, they made up for in detail, in visual detail. That's the one thing that Europe had when it comes to the human anatomy, with art and human anatomy, that the other cultures didn't. They made it a point to be as detailed as possible visually, not information-wise. Like information-wise, when it comes to art and the human anatomy, the information-wise, like the actual content written down, was done a long time ago. That there wasn't no question about that. There wasn't no question about what parts of the body go where and how intricate they are tied to the other parts of the body. There was no question about that. But you may not have had the visual accuracy of the human anatomy as to what it really looks like. Not what you think it's like, but what it really looks like to the letter. Okay, like if I open up my arm up, you can see the different muscles and stuff, and you move, run, you see that. See things moving. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, all that. See it. Now all these, now what I'm doing right now is just moving my fingers, but because my fingers are tied to different parts of my arm, you see movement in a different part. Like my hand is right here, but you see movement here. Now, if I would open up my arm and show you the parts of my arm that moves when I do this, and then I were to draw it so you can visually see, like as accurate as possible, what they do, then the image is drawn, the image is really imprinted in your mind because you can say, okay, this looks exactly like this. This looks exactly like this, and this does exactly what this says it does. Okay, so I think over the years, art and science have become more and more separated. That's just my opinion. From what I've seen over the years, the arts, well, art as in terms of drawing, painting, sculptors, have been removed from the science department, the anatomy. I'll say this: if you were to study it, then you would know that they come together. It's just that your discipline may be science, but you use artistic attributes to really bring home your science. Or if you are an artist and you're dealing with human anatomy, if you do a drawing of a nude figure, you can rely on your science of the human anatomy to really, really show the accuracy of what you're trying to draw. Okay? Now, in those specific fields, they come together. Much like in the general population, the everyday person would say that they don't go together. You ask somebody walking down the street and about like is art and science are they together? 9 times out of 10, they're gonna probably say no. Now, unless you just happen to be in the know and you know better, or you happen to be in those particular fields that deal with the human anatomy, whether it be art or whether it be science. When I just say, well, I won't say human anatomy. Let me not say human anatomy. Let me just say anatomy. Period. Like you got anatomy of a flower, animal anatomy, things of that nature. So I will stop saying human anatomy, so I won't be biased because you can do this with any other discipline. Okay. When you deal with anatomy, you know that's the one time where art and science will come together if you're a part of those particular disciplines, those particular fields. But how many people just walking down the street will know how close they are? It may be lower than you think. So how do we get the masses to understand the deep connection between art and anatomy? How do we do that? Because if somebody were to say, draw a heart, draw the human heart, or draw a heart, draw an anatomically correct heart, and then we look at the heart and say, well, I don't know how to draw it. But if you say that art and science don't mix, you know that when you're looking at any science textbook, you look at a science textbook, and no matter what discipline you look up in the science textbook, you're going to see images that were drawn by artists, okay, to show what the words are in the book. So if you say that art and science don't mix, then if I give you a science book and you see art in there, think about it. You will never see art. You will never see a science book without art in it. Think about that. You will never see a science book without art inside of it. Because art is the best way to describe what is scientific in the book. Because it's visual. I can tell you about, a proximal, medial, distal phalange. I can tell you about that. You may look at me like, what the hell is a proximal phalange? A, a medial phalange? A distal phalange? What is a metacarpal? What are the carpal bones? What's the radius, ulna? What's the humerus? What's the scapula, clavicle, sternum, body of sternum, rib cage, the different parts of the spine. Was it the wait, hold on. Yeah, it's the cervical. Like the C1 vertebrae, the atlas bone, the axis bone. Now, if I say that, you're gonna look like, what in the world are you talking about? I don't know what those look like, but if you look in a science book, if you turn to the anatomy, you turn to the anatomy of an animal or a human, look in a science book, you will see a drawing, a visual representation of everything I just said. So then you will know how close they are together. Because if I were to say, what is the, maxilla? What is the zygomatic arch? What is the sacrum? Okay? What is the patella? What are those things? Show me the anvil. If I say anvil, people may think about anvil as in a blacksmith. But if I say anvil for anatomy, then you will have a visual of the inner ear. Okay? So if I were to draw it for you, okay, this is what it looks like. I'm going to draw it for you what the anvil inside of the ear looks like. So now when you hear the word anvil and you see the word anvil in a science book, you will see a drawing of the anvil in the science book. So are they tied together? Yes, they are very much tied together. Very much tied together. Right? So it's one little lesson I want to give to you. Art and anatomy. Okay, so hope you enjoyed that. Post your comments down below. Leave a comment down below. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. I will catch you all later. Peace. See? Phalanges. Proximal, medial, distal. Okay? See that? Proximal, medial, distal. Phalange. Finger. Same thing with the foot. Same thing with the foot. See, but this the carpal bones. Carpal bones. And in the foot is the tarsal. So you got metacarpal, and the foot is metatarsal. Okay? Something for you right there. Something for you there. The metatarsal is like the wrist of the foot. The metacarpals is like the wrist. Metacarpals is the wrist. Okay? Metacarpals is the wrist. The metatarsal is like the wrist of the foot. Well, someone want to drop it on you. All right? Catch you all later. Peace.